Like coming to live, Spirit and Coffee. Got my coffee here. Mm-hmm. Good coffee. Nice coffee. There you go. Let's set this up a little better. Good. Okay. Let's get started. So um hopefully I will be getting some coffee beans coming in soon from Life Boost, who has organic coffee beans, which is good because I don't want to have all the chemicals in the beans that I'm currently drinking. But I love my coffee, and you guys know I'm probably not going to stop. It's the one vice I get to have out of everything. I don't eat sugar, I don't eat sodium, I don't do all this stuff. So I get to have my coffee. So there you go. Um, I'm wearing my Harry Potter robe today just because I am cold and I like to be warm. Good morning, Camilla. So let's get started. We're almost done with this chapter for the Four Agreements. I imagine that this book is going to go by quickly so we can start a new book. And I think The Power of Now is sort of going to be the next one. It's a really good book. It helps to teach us how to be present, aware in the moment now rather than in the future or in the past, which we oftentimes do. We tend to like go to the past or the future, get stuck there, and not really create anything in the now. So the present moment is critical, especially when we're doing the work, even when we're doing the Four Agreements, which is be impeccable with your word, right? That's what we're talking about. We need to be aware, and to be aware, you have to be in the present moment. You have to be here now, not yesterday or the day before, but in this particular moment. Okay, good, 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 good. Okay, let's get started on this. Okay, um, so we were talking about um the agreements we should make with ourselves to be free, how we use the word or the mitote or the lies or how we believe the lies, and those lies become what we feel are truth, but they're really lies, they're not truth, and how we think that those truths um, are part of who we are, and then we agree with that, and then we start to behave in that way, or we start to talk ill about others. Okay, so here we go. You can transcend the dream of hell just by making the agreement to be impeccable with your word. Right now, I am planting that seed in your mind. Whether or not the seed grows depends upon how fertile your mind is for the seeds of love. It is up to you to make this agreement with yourself. I am impeccable with my word. Nature is nurture this seed as it grows in your mind, and you will generate more seeds of love to replace the seeds of fear. This first agreement will change the kind of seeds in your mind is fertile for. Okay, so I have set up in a curriculum, good morning, Doreen, that sort of talks about how we set the seeds in our subconscious mind and how those seeds either if they're fertile and they're love and the fertile ground is there and the seeds drop in and it's love, then you're going to have an apple tree of love, right? Or you're going to have fruit that yields love for you. But if you don't, you're going to yield what? Hatred, pain, suffering if you continue. Now, here's the thing, you do have to go in deep to the deep roots of the suffering in order to excavate or take them out or pull them out of the subconscious mind so that you can have fertile ground. So it doesn't talk about that in this book. It doesn't say that. It just says have fertile ground. Well, what does that even mean? How do you have a subconscious mind that's ready, that's fertile, that's willing to accept the love into the subconscious mind if all you have in your subconscious mind is hatred, pain, suffering, anger, frustration? Okay. Good morning, Arrow 215 or Arrow 215. So, fertile ground, the book doesn't talk about this. Why? I don't know. There's certain things that I don't 100% agree with the book. It doesn't go in 100%. But this is very light reading for a beginner, someone who is just sort of interested at starting the path of their spiritual life, or I should say that their life legacy or divine birthright, whatever you want to call it, purpose. We can call it a bunch of things. Drinking my coffee. I hope you guys have your coffee. I just love coffee. Okay, hence spirit and coffee. For those of you that are on Podbean, I also do a live video, so you will see me drinking my coffee throughout this podcast. Okay, you might hear me slurp. Sorry, my niece can't stand the slurping, but I was like, oh well, I slurp sometimes. Okay. So be impeccable with your word. This is the first agreement that you should make if you want to be free, if you want to be happy, if you want to transcend the level of existence that is hell. It is very powerful. Use the word in the correct way. Use the word to share your love. Use white magic beginning with yourself. Tell yourself how wonderful you are, how great you are. Tell yourself how much you love yourself. Use the words to break all those teeny tiny agreements that make you suffer. Now, they call them teeny tiny, but the reality is they feel like they're ginormous. So it's teeny tiny in the aspect of someone who's in the work. They know that it's not that serious, right? Most of our life, most of the things that we're up to are not that serious, but we can totally amplify them into a huge drama, right? And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's probably not supporting you and serving you and helping you. So, what do I say to that? I say that I'm very happy because my mom's drinking her water. Sorry, my mom in the background, like, I told her she needs to drink water first thing in the morning to get the bowels moving because it helps with digestion. I mean, it helps with, your digestive tract. Anyway, I've talked about that before, the health part. So, in the subconscious mind, now it's not teeny tiny. We make these stories bigger than they need to be at times. But what ends up happening is that it becomes a spiral effect. It's one bad apple can ruin the bunch, right? So, in your subconscious mind, when something happens, if the ground in which you've grown those roots is in suffering, it doesn't seem teeny tiny. So I think the book sort of dismisses the fact that things are magnified really big for other people. We say they're teeny tiny because we don't want to give them that much credit. We don't want to give your drama that much credit. It's really not that serious, right? It's not the end of the world. Most things. Okay. Like 99% of our life is not things that are like life threatening. Most of it is just drama that we create. And then we have the 10% where it's life threatening, right? Where, I don't know, someone hit, there's a car accident or, whatever the other suffering is. You get in a fight with somebody hits you, those types of things. That's the trauma that we experience. But the drama in our life, the tiny little things that they're talking about, I don't want to dismiss them as they're just tiny because they're huge to some people, but they're tiny when you realize that you can actually create agreements with yourself that are love, kindness, and compassion for self. Then you start to realize, oh yeah, that's not such a big deal. I can let that go. Like someone cutting you off in traffic. I don't like traffic, okay? I don't like the way people drive. I'm going to be the only person on the road. Just kidding. Actually, I'm not kidding. Joking, not joking kind of thing. But so we make things bigger, we magnify them, and then we start to grow the roots of the self-destruction, self-sabotage in the subconscious mind. That becomes the plants, that becomes the harvest. We harvest suffering rather than love and kindness and compassion. And so that's what it's saying. The fertile ground is you actually diving deep into the subconscious mind, accepting those things about you that you weren't able to accept before, recognizing that they're there, and then spewing love on them. That's the only thing that's going to dissolve it is the love. Nothing more than love will dissolve anything, okay? So you've learned to love. Tell yourself kind things, and it starts internally. then the external world starts. Now, I've talked about the three mirrors, because most people will say, well, yeah, I'm being loving and kind, but I don't get that from the external world, even though, okay, and there's three mirrors that you can ask yourself if you're a part of. One of them is, if you're loving, kind, and not seeing that reflection, are you judging those who are not loving and kind? More than likely, the answer is yes. Most people don't get past the second mirror, because the third mirror is the trauma that has been seeded in the subconscious mind that started from when we were children and being programmed. That's basically what this is telling you in the four agreements. So there are things in this book I don't totally agree with, and it's not that I don't agree with it. I just think that the explanation is a little bit too general. However, when you're starting off, a general understanding of the information makes total sense. So for a beginner, this makes sense. I'm going to take you guys a little bit deeper, because I feel like most people are at a state of awareness that they can handle what it takes to go a little bit deeper into the subconscious mind rather than surface level stuff. Okay, I think that everybody's pretty much ready. There's so much information out there. People are doing their homework, and especially the people that show up here. Guys are here for a purpose. You're showing up for yourself. You're showing up because you know that you want to create something bigger in your life. And maybe the tools that you've used in the past aren't working. This is the absolute, no, I don't want to say absolute. That's probably not the right word. This is one of the ways to do it from a space of moral, sound principle, not using black magic, but using light and love to magnify and create your legacy and your divine birthright, where other people will use black magic. Okay. So I will tell you about this. Okay. So you guys know me, I'm a little weirdo. Let's just go into what I do. And it's up to you to do it or not. But I love, so I don't watch um traditional TV. What do I mean by that? I mean, I don't watch TV. Um if I do turn on the TV, and if I do watch something, I watch something like Ancient Aliens. Okay. Now people will dismiss Ancient Aliens, and they'll be like, what is it about aliens? Well, yeah, I mean, it's an ancient alien theory that was created by Eric Dan Vonnegut, who wrote The Chariots of the Gods. Now, The Chariots of the Gods just simply talks about the historical records that were created, in different around the world. So we see this phenomena around the world. Um, and in those stories, and I was watching an episode last night about the dark forces, is what they called it, and starting to look at what the light and the dark is, the duality that we exist in. And these different sects of spiritual beings or religious people, quote unquote, religious people, the druids, I'm trying to think of the different, like the Knights Templar, the Masons, the all these orders and sects that were created. And I can't think of the one, the Mudras, I think it was called. Anyway, we have shamans. We have all of these different sects of people who engage in the esoterics, and engage in spiritual alchemy. Okay. Now, here's the deal: these people get to a point where they get to choose the light and the dark. In the darkness, okay, that they choose, they start to use manipulation and what we call black magic. Now, you heard in the four agreements them talk about black magic. That's basically what it is using the word to manipulate, people for your own self-interest, where you have light workers who show up to support others in actually remembering who they are, waking up to love and remembering they are love, and not forcing the choice upon them, but merely guiding them towards the choice of choosing the light. It's up to you guys. That is not up to me. I am a light force. I am the light. And so, but in that particular duality, we don't dismiss the darkness, because you cannot dismiss the darkness. When you are a practitioner of the great work, you can't dismiss the darkness. That's crazy. Dismissing or acting as though the darkness exists is like saying we're not going to war. That's part of what we call black magic. Why? Because people are taking justice into their own hands and pretending that they have the answer, the ultimate truth with a capital T. They don't. They don't. They're human. Come on, let's be real. No human has all the answers. No human can do every single thing that is possible. If there is somebody, I would like to see that somebody. There's so much that we don't even know. Like, look at our oceans, look at the cosmos. I mean, we can go, people, we don't even know. We can't even go to the deep depths of the sea as a human being. Why? Because we will get crushed. The pressure from the water will crush our bones, plus, we'll suffocate. Plus, we can't go that far down unless we have a mechanism that takes us there that we create. We don't know anything about the deep depths of our ocean. We know very little. And outer space, we know very little. We don't even know how to operate our own bodies properly. Not, I can't say everybody, but most people don't. So the reality is that anybody who is engaged in this dark magic or whatever you want to call it, or denies that there is darkness, is just looking at half the picture. You can't get a view on everything unless you look at the whole part of it. Now, the darkness is scary for some people. They won't walk through the darkness. They'll deny that it exists and they'll say, I don't believe it's there. The reality is it's there. And you dismissing it is not going to help you to actually find the light within you and love, because you have darkness in you. We all do. To transmute the energy of darkness from within, we have to learn how to seed new patterns in the subconscious mind. Okay? Yeah, it's pretty heavy talk, I think, for a Friday. ah. And there's not the people on here that get often on the podcast are like, hell no, this is a Friday. I ain't trying to hear all this. I don't know who's on here still for the Podbean, but good morning to you. Thank you for tuning in. It's a heavy Friday, but I'm going to tell you, this information is critical. Good morning, Angela. This information is critical. Why is it critical? Because it's here for you, not for me. That's the thing I keep telling viewers. I keep telling my people, my followers, the people that get on here. This is not for me. I mean, it is in a way. It's for me in the sense that I get a lot out of being on here and talking to you guys. I do. Okay. But the reality is that I do the work regardless. I'm going to do this work regardless if I show up here or not. This is who I am. And you can go in a it's funny because I love Facebook for this reason. There's historical records. You can go back to my records and you can see that I have been doing this work since the beginning of Facebook and since the beginning of my life. I've been on this path forever and I'm not going to start going on another path. This is my path. This is who I am. I know my purpose. Most people are out there trying to figure out what is their purpose. How do I engage in purpose? How do I find out what my purpose is? What is my purpose? Who am I? Why am I here? These bigger questions we ask as human beings. Now, I'm telling you, I'm giving you a very critical piece of information that some part of the world's not hearing this. In fact, a very small percentage is probably hearing it. But it's the critical part that people get to hear in order to overcome the suffering that we are experiencing in this day and age. I'm telling you, things are going to get worse if we don't start to illuminate, if we don't start to wake up, especially those who are light workers and know through and through that they are light workers. Now, there are people out there who know that they are dark. And I've talked about this before. We are at a time where we can simply ask people, are you dark? Are you light? And they can tell you. They'll give you a definitive answer because people are at a point where they know. They know. You can't escape it anymore. Why? Because consciousness is waking up. That means that you get to wake up. You can no longer deny it. You're going to either you deny it or you're going to be forced into it. And that force is why we see so many tornadoes, why we see all of this stuff happening, because we're not waking up. We're continuing to just think that that we're gods. Now, we are God, an extension of God, but we're not the God. We are part of the whole. And if we could honor that and recognize that and co-create with, rather than try to defy and it's like, I want to be greater than. You cannot be greater than. It doesn't even make sense, because if we were in, let's say, this circle of energy, like an infinity sign, right? If we were in the circle of energy, we could never be outside the energy. So how are you going to be more than? Doesn't even make sense. You can't even go outside the realms of what we live in at this point. You could go to the cosmos. It doesn't mean you're outside of the whole picture. You're still in the picture. But people will try to defy that, and then it comes out distortion, and it comes out war and angry people and whatever else. Okay. Heavy Friday. Woo woo. I just drank some coffee. I don't know. I like to take an inventory of what kind of coffee I'll drink when you come here. And if you're drinking coffee when you come here, I love my coffee so much. So there you go. Okay. So we are the extension of the divine God, right? We are the extension, but we are not it, but we are. So this becomes this catch-22. And if you can't embody it and understand, it gets a little confusing. I get that. So I'm here to support you, guide you through that so that you understand it. Okay. So we're at a point where we look at the light and the dark and we ask ourselves, where can I find the middle? Now, we honor as light workers, I don't want to say honor, we accept and love that there is darkness. We do not deny and reject, because all dark souls can turn to the light. It's a possibility. Vice versa. We definitely don't want to lose people. And the reason why is because people will, quote unquote, sell their soul to the darkness. What does that even mean? Okay. People are like, think it's like this crazy, there's this entity being that comes and makes you sign something. No, it's you and your own internal demons, right? Which is the suffering within you that says, I want out of suffering. I'm willing to sign some kind of contract to get out of that in this particular dimension. We're trapped in the body. The body is not an easy thing to maneuver. Being a human is not easy. We're trapped in this vessel, okay, in some way, our spirit. Now, we have this suffering, and something comes along and says, I'll make your life easy with material stuff. So just sign here and I'll give you all that you want. And then we gorge out on stuff. That in itself becomes what we call a sin. And a sin is not it's not like, oh, you're a sinner, you're going to hell. No, you're missing the mark. You're off your own spiritual integrity in that sense, because what you're doing is looking to external things to sort of resolve the internal conflict. The external things aren't going to resolve the internal conflict. It's never going to happen. You will never be satisfied. I don't care if they gave you a Lamborghini. Your Lamborghini would be good for maybe a month, maybe even a year. We'll go as long as a year. And then after that, you'd be like, yeah, whatever. It's just a Lamborghini. It's just a vehicle that gets me from point A to point B. So it looks cool. And then maybe people like you and you're like, now I have friends because I have all these fancy things. But are they truly my friends? And you start to question those bigger things. Are they just using me? Is it fraudulent or is it real? So what ends up happening is a spiral, domino effect. Good morning, Amy. And in that domino effect that we have, that spirals out of control, we continue to look to the external world to fill a gap that we feel is inside of us. That's all that black magic really is. That's all that signing over your soul to what they say is evil or whatever forces, whatever people say. Really, what we're doing is we're selling out on ourselves. That's really what it is. It's not that we're making people just take it to this extreme. Oh, it's they take it too far, in my personal opinion, but that's okay if you want to. Like, ooh, it's this scary thing. And it's not. We're our own worst enemy. We are. And we're like, oh, I want the instant gratification. If I could win the lotto, you hear people say this all the time. If I win the lotto, if I, people that win the lotto are worse off sometimes in the end. Things go really bad. It's not better. Yeah, money can make things easier sometimes. And having things makes things easier. That doesn't mean that it resolves the internal conflict. It's never going to. Only you have that power to do that. When you remember that and you recognize that, when you do have things that come to you, blessings, it's that much more intense, and there's gratitude for it. And so it stays longer. Okay? So I hope that this is helpful. I see that there's like nobody on Facebook, which is fine. Maybe a few on Podbean. And sometimes when I'm doing these live, very low attendance. Why? Because sometimes when I'm speaking into things that are a little bit more deep, you kind of have people, the ones that are really curious will stay on. The ones that are truly seeking their way out of their own suffering will stay on. And sometimes it's a bit much for some, which makes sense. Or the universe, God, whatever says, look, this is who gets to hear the message today. So quality over quantity. We want quality people. We want quality. So it's not about how many people. It's about are people getting the message? That's the question. Ding dong. Okay, I'm gonna drink some coffee right now. All right, so we have these forces. We know that they exist. We have a choice, and you have an opportunity to choose. That's it. Simple. I've sort of talked about these ideas over and over again. Everything I'm saying, is it new? No. Has it been here before? Yes. Any spiritual leader is just regurgitating what has already happened, even in the Four Agreements. He tells you at the beginning, this is Toltec wisdom. This is not mine. I'm just simply putting it into a form you can understand. Can we take credit for it? No. I mean, it's everything, nothing new under the sun. We're co creating with our own divine birthright. We're co-creating with God to expand and awaken people, get people in motion to live their divine birthright and legacy. You guys have the power to do that. Now, is it easy? No. Is it uncomfortable? Yes. Totally uncomfortable. Is it ever ending? No, probably not ever ending. It's a forever thing. It's an everyday choice. Is it exhausting at times? Yes. Okay. So there you go. So that is today's Spirit and Copy. As I told you, unless there's total engagement, they will be a lot shorter. Because that is what I'm doing, shorter videos, shorter podcasts live on air. But if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, please let me know. I'm always open for feedback. I'm always open to listening and hearing you guys out. And please share. I love to hear what you guys are up to. So have the most magical, funky, freaky, fun, fabulous, phenomenal Friday. And there you go. Shout out for my Harry Potter Gryffindor robe that I got from my sister. And cheers to you with my beautiful coffee with cardamom and cinnamon. So lovely. Okay, have a great day, and I will be seeing you guys on Monday. Bye bye.